So you've got to the point where you're getting a job interview. You're sitting down in front of the person and they ask, oh, do you have any questions for us here at Big Tech Fang Startup Company? And you might say, oh, sure, I do, sir. I've prepared a couple questions and I'd like to ask you so I know if I'm a great fit for this company, if this company is a great fit for me, eh, mate? So you're gonna basically ask them, who is the person that was in this role before and why are you hiring? Do you have a fill-in spot because someone just left? And if so, why did they leave? You're trying to understand what is exactly going on in the structure of this company that made this role available, or is it that they're just trying to expand and hire many, many more people? After you get a bit of an understanding of why this role is open, you're going to try to understand and really get a sobering answer of what the job actually entails, because just like product manager can mean one thing in one job and another in another, UX designers also, there's UX and then there's UI and then there's UX researchers and then there's UX. There's a million things like that, but then under those there's so many subcategories. If someone's starting to throw at you like chief of this and senior of that, you're going to have to understand what that means within the company. Like, where does the hierarchy stand? What does each terminology mean? Are you going to be a UX designer? Are you going to be a glorified secretary that eventually can become a UX designer? And then on top of that, you want to understand the trajectory of growth. So if you're in this job for 2 years, how do they feel about promotions? How do they feel about letting you be hired in the company? Are they going to be targeting potential leadership from the get-go, or are they going to be analyzing as you go? It's really important to kind of get an understanding of how this company views your role so you can know also how you can grow as a UX designer within the company. On top of this, you want to understand all of your responsibilities, and you also want to know what does it take to actually excel in this role. So if this role has already existed in the company, what have people done really well that they'd like to preserve, and what should you not do in order to avoid it? Another thing that you're really going to want to understand is just how the dynamic of the company is in general, what the work culture is like, and what the day-to-day responsibilities are. Vacation days, salaries, understand all of that so you know how to move forward. It's really important to actually ask questions in the interview because you want to show them that you're interested, you're a thoughtful person, but the ball is also in, do you say their court or your court? In your court, right? You want to show that the ball is also in your court because you two have the power and you have many people just knocking at your door asking you to work for them. And I can actually tell you personally, for my first job in UX design, when it came down to them taking forever to decide who's going to fill in this student position that they had available, it was like an internship turned full-time job. It actually came down to me calling them and telling them that I had another offer from Nintendo, which was true. And the fact that I said that made them actually hurry up and hire me within 2 hours when I was waiting 1 month for them to let me know who are they going to end up taking into this position. So if it ends up coming down to you and another person, don't be afraid to also give them a call and say, hey, I would love to work at your company. Your work culture and me, we're so aligned. I love this role and I can't wait to start. But there's one thing, I have an offer already waiting on my table. And I don't want to just say, we have a saying in Hebrew that I sometimes use in English. I don't really know what you'd call it, but it basically means staying bald on both sides. If you shave both sides of your head, you'll end up bald on both sides. So you basically say, you want to have something in your hand at the end of the day and you don't want to miss opportunities. So it's really important for you to get an answer back, and you'd really appreciate if they get back to you. The HR people will know that you're an in-demand person, and that makes you more attractive for the person employing. But I really wouldn't pull that card unless it's very last minute, because odds are, if you need this card, that's good, but you don't want to just use this early on because they'll be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't continue with them in the process in general. Although a lot of companies are really persistent on finding good talent to hire. Now, what are the skills that you need? Well, depending on the company, whether it's using Adobe or it's Figma or maybe it's Axure, then I was actually, when applying for this job, I was also part of a student Microsoft ambassador program of Axure. So having those things on my resume really helped, but beyond that, it was just showing that I have a really good understanding of these different programs, that I can make something on Adobe, on Figma, or on Axure. But going into a company, you want to know exactly which program they're using so you can be really good at it before you start. And also so you can learn it if you don't have that specific, I wouldn't say skill, I'd say understanding of the products that they're using to excel at the job and be part of their job. So that way you can be prepared in time. Another skill you're going to need to develop is understanding research, which is, I'm going to make so many videos on this because it's just so downplayed in UX design outside of actually working in the companies. Research in itself is just so important. But there's another really big thing I want to talk about, which is coding. Now, a lot of people wonder, should I learn UX design with code? Is code really important for UX design? And I will tell you flat out, I signed up for an NGO called She Codes, and I learned code. And I ended up working at the NGO as well. And what I learned were incredible skills. I thought they were incredibly useful. But do I think you need to learn code to be a UX designer? No, honestly. And a lot of people will tell you, yes, you should learn it, you should do this, you should do that. I think it's an incredible skill to have, but I think what they're actually looking for is someone who knows the terminology so you can talk with developers and understand what they mean when things come up. You should know what an API is, and you should know what an algorithm is, and you should know a whole lot of things that have to do with computer science and coding. But do you have to be a software engineer to actually become a UX designer? No, they're completely different jobs. You're doing things that require more design work that will then get handed off to a back-end engineer and a front-end engineer or full stack, and they'll end up putting that all into work. So you're doing completely different jobs. Like, you wouldn't ask a software engineer to know UX design. It might help them get a better understanding of the team structure and the responsibilities of the team members, but is that actually going to influence the work that you do, knowing it or not? You just need to know the terminologies. So although that is a debatable topic, and yes, there are companies that they're going to highly seek out. I know enterprise companies and the really, really hard to get to UX roles, it's definitely a huge advantage to actually know code, specifically more with front end. But the fact that you know back end, I think, is also pretty useful. I personally learned Python, which is very useless for UX design. But you know, life works out in funny ways, and sometimes it pays off in ways you don't expect. So I enjoyed learning coding a lot, and I'd love to make more computer science oriented videos for people who are in UX, who want to learn computer science to make it fun and friendly. But I think it's not necessarily a big thing you have to know. So when going to job interviews, if you have it on your resume, it's fine. If you don't, it's also fine. Focus on really honing the task of UX design and becoming a fabulous designer. Keep in mind, UX and UI are completely separate. User experience is more of like, you know, the more bland looking stuff, but technical stuff. And then UI stuff is more the colors, the fonts, the branding, the things that go into that. Completely separate topic. And I think, you know, both are sometimes really good to know together, especially in a small startup where you're going to have more responsibilities in the product in general. But that's another thing that you want to understand when you're going to the role, is how much of your role is requiring UX, how much is requiring UI. If you don't know graphic design, colors, fonts, things like that, you're going to have to catch up with a couple of things to get to the point where you know UI really well, and vice versa. A bit more of a long process, I would say, going from UI design to UX design, but it's completely manageable. I've seen people do it, very common, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Now, if you have any more questions you'd like to know about job interviews, let me know. And I hope if you are in front of one or before one or about to do one, I hope that you have a really good job interview, that you crush it and you nail it. And if you want to learn more, I have plenty of videos on this channel, so go check them out. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Big hugs. Good luck, guys. Bye.